How do we become great at anything? We get feedback. We have somebody show us how to do it. We do it, and then we have somebody review how we did it. But there's little quirks we have. We all have them. Blind spots, some people call it, quirks, personality issues, mindset problems, attitude issues. We all have them. They may not be blaring. They may not be debilitating. They may not even be major. They might be little things that get in our way of becoming the person we want to be. Now, it usually hurts to hear about these things. We usually defend against them. That is our nature. The little subconscious mind takes over 9 times out of 10. So guess what? We get that little impulse that says that person's wrong. Protect me, says the unconscious mind. And guess what? You protect it all the time. Today's interview is about exactly this. The rep, who's a podcast listener, great guy, had a little quirk. And someone told him about it. And it hurt at the beginning. And it does. And it takes a little bit of change. But any performance is just this. It's a little tuning, a little perfection, a little polish. And this is what we have to do all the time. A B player gets stuck in the trap of, I know how. Okay, you do. I don't argue with that. Probably 99% of the people listening to this podcast know how to sell, but how well are you doing it every day? I know how to sell, but before each sales call I have, I go through a little checklist. Before each interview, been doing interviews for 6 years now. Still go through my checklist, still review it afterwards, do a little postmortem, and I still learn something. It may not be major, but it certainly helps because I like compounding. See, our nature is mammals is circadian. Circadian is a 24-hour cycle. And what we do is we live the same one all the time. We are in the movie Groundhog Day, whether we admit it or not. We have to proactively, consciously change that to get some compounding. And that's what makes an A player. The A player that has the compounding mindset versus the circadian reaction mindset. Let's get into this interview. I think we'll all get a lot out of it because the person's vulnerable. The person accepts that they're not perfect. That's the first thing. Know that whatever you think of the world, it's incomplete. It can never be complete. And that we as salespeople have to do the analysis, the judgment, the thought, because as mammals, we're not trained to thought. We're trained to react. So also, are you listening to the past episodes? They're freaking gold. I'm telling you, I put a lot of effort into them. Just because it's not out today doesn't mean it doesn't work. Go back through the old ones. Make sure you're downloading them. iTunes only allows you to keep so much up there. And eventually I'm going to charge for them. So get them for free for now. Before we get into the interview, everybody who's in the courses, I really encourage you to take advantage of the one-on-ones. Not just the ones with me, but the ones that have been recorded and put in the course. If you don't have time, just skip through the first 5 or 10 minutes, which is mostly context and updating, and get to the last 15 or 20 minutes where all the gold is, where we talk through the issues and we come up with a strategy to move forward. It's really helped me polish the course for both the office hours and the core content to match how things have changed. If you're not in the course, go to b2brevenue.com and just check it out. Don't schedule a time unless you're really interested. Don't sign up unless you really want to become better. This is not a money grab thing for me. This is much more of a community type of thing. Yeah, I love your money. Of course I do. But I only want the people who really want to become better at sales in the course. The people who are going to put a little bit of time, hour or two a week into it, to polish it up, to have that compounding mindset. At the end, I'll update everybody on the office hours and what's going on with the other podcasts and the comedy. The comedy is really becoming popular. I got to admit. Also, co-video. Have you tried video email? Make it a goal to try it. Just download it, give it the 30-day trial, and see if you like it. See how you could work it into your system, into your way of connecting with both new and existing people. And it becomes a give. It becomes something that you can do that adds value and differentiates you from all the other people. It gets you that next level of connection with the person. Also, Pipedrive, you got to have your own CRM. I know you have LinkedIn, but there's no contact information. There's no context there. I know you got your corporate CRM, but that's theirs. And they don't let you have it when you leave. And if they change it, or they screw up and delete it, or lock you out, or stamp over it, or whatever, guess who's out of luck? Them and you. Take control of your destiny. Get your own CRM. Pipedrive's the one I pick. Super simple to use. It feels much more like a spreadsheet than it does a CRM, so it's very visual. Use the coupon code Brutal Truth all at once. And here, let's get into the interview, and I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Matt, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, and glad we could get this connected. So I am the director of sales for the Midwest through the West Coast for C-Safe Global. It's a cold supply chain company, primarily serving the bio and pharmaceutical companies. Before that, I was with Honeywell Performance and Material Technology Division, selling production chemicals, as well as R&D chemicals, primarily, you guess it, to the biotech pharmaceutical world. Yeah, as well as, doing some aerospace and electronics. But before that, I was with a company called Air Products and Chemicals. They manufacture cryogenic gases, and they service a wide variety of different industries, ranging from the healthcare, aerospace, electronics. And this was probably one of the biggest foundations where I really got to get my sales career kind of going. It's where I learned how to prospect, negotiate, being creative, have a learning mind, and knowing when to be quiet.
It sounds like pretty straightforward stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I sometimes I think it is.
Is it?
Sometimes I sometimes think it is.
I'm trying to think, what is it and what does it do? And
right.
Yeah. How do you like it? You must like it. You've been doing it a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having, I guess, the more of my sales from this side of the world of 7 years, and I really enjoy it. I think part of the mentality, I come from playing sports, specifically baseball, and I think you understand you're never going to bat 1,000.
Right.
You're gonna have some.
Because anyone can swing a bat, right?
Yeah, exactly. So coming from not, continuing to play baseball out of college, it was probably one of the biggest careers that kind of matched that mentality of what you put in, having the mindset, and that you can be successful. So, yeah.
And it sounds like pretty technical products selling to pretty smart people.
Yes, yeah, definitely. A lot smarter than me. I mean, a lot smarter. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, these are the PhDs. Wow. You have some of the smartest people in the world, and it's very inspiring too, because you get to really see how these people are making a huge difference, and especially with the pharma and the biotech, for people that, whether you know someone, you love someone with either a disease, disability, they're really out there trying to fix it and solve it.
And how do you handle that as far as like learning what they care about, being able to talk about the product in their words? Do you have a technical person with you, or do you just?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we do. We have technical people. This has been, for this role within C-Safe, has been probably one of the most interesting and unique, because there's so many people in the party. With the cold supply chain, we're dealing with a powered, battery-powered container that's going under the belly of an airplane, and so it's being transported throughout. Yeah, I never knew this existed. I mean, frankly, my wife kind of made fun of me, saying, there's other things that go under an airplane besides your bag. I'm like, no, there isn't. That's for bags. No, there is. And so you're dealing with a bunch of parties that are affected into the sale. You're dealing with airlines, you're dealing with the forwarders, and then you're dealing with the shipper, the customer, the pharmaceutical. And so it's a very unique, and so everyone's got it's a very unique situation, but with the within the customers, it's really kind of putting your feet into their shoes, understanding what's impacting
What they
them.
care about.
Where is it that they value? And I know it sounds kind of redundant, but and then part of it, I think, is just also being an authentic human being, to see if you can help.
Yeah. Because I'm sure they don't view salespeople as value add, because they're very analytical, very matter of fact.
Yeah. It's definitely, you can't speak cheesy. And I know, like, one thing I've kind of definitely learned from the phone is where I made my most learning mistakes was having a this high pitched voice of this, like, hey, this is Matt Swan, and it just sounded so oversales. And I think it's understanding the inflection of your tone. So yeah.
That's it. We overlooked that, and a headhunter finally told me this. It goes, okay, when you do a phone interview, sound like a salesperson. I go, what do you mean? It's like, have a cup of coffee, get excited. They want to hear a salesperson. Go, but my clients don't.
Right.
They want to hear somebody calm and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And I think you have to adapt to your audience in every way.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's I mean, it's I don't like using the word I heard it from someone say chameleon, but I think the best is mirroring. People are comfortable, we're creatures of habit, we're creatures of familiarity, and the more familiar you are, the better that you're going to have for communicating with them.
Yeah. And I had some managers that worked in Manhattan, and I had the Southeast at one time. So we would be down in Atlanta, and down in Atlanta, it was a little bit slower talking. And my Manhattan manager was like, blah, 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 100 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And the customer says, did you used to sell vacuum cleaners? It was like just a real chop at him. He goes, well, what do you think he meant by that? He goes, yeah, you kind of got to adapt your words per minute.
Right. Yeah. It's so true. So true indeed. I mean, even I think some of the people that I've worked with that come from the East Coast and want to come to the West Coast for a call or something in the past have noticed the same thing. They're like, am I saying something? Did I say something wrong? And I'm like, hey,
no, it's
find
just
your rhythm.
Too much.
Calm the rhythm down a little bit.
Yeah. That's it. Because you get used to people, and people start to adapt to each other. And I remember when I was a kid, my mom was from Northern Canada, very different accent. Yeah. Within 2 days, her accent would readapt to her childhood accent.
Right.
And that was good, though, right? Because the words and stuff. And I think that's important, to be able to adapt to the way our clients want to communicate.
Yes.
Well, what type of price point are you at?
In what way?
What kind of deal size?
Deal sizes, they've always traditionally have been always ranging from like the six figures to the seven and up. So, and frankly, the part with like within their products, that was probably one of the best learning experiences with the company, and really learning how to, because it's one thing of you finding the business, creating the solution. And usually at the time, it's like when you did something that was totally unique, and I know there's people that talk about like, hey, how do you negotiate, and it might sound, it doesn't mean to come off as arrogant but it's kind of like if you did all the work and you really created that value. I mean, there was hardly anything to negotiate when it came to the contract, and if it was always between your legal team, the legal teams between the two companies, which leave it to the lawyers,
Right. And it's a piece of hardware, right? It's a physical product.
Yes. Yeah. Everything's been a physical product that they've been using. So,
yeah. Because I always found I was selling software, sometimes to software companies. So they knew the game, since it's all margin.
Right.
The piece of
Right.
hardware, there's margin there, of course, but it's
Right.
like
Right.
it's easier to protect.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys have definitely a different story.
Yeah.
The story of how you guys get things done. I admire it.
So, what do you think differentiates you from less successful salespeople at your company?
Yeah, I think through I um, I definitely say through success, it has been this determination. Really, it's probably one of the biggest things been prospecting.
Yeah.
And I know we kind of were sharing some messages about it, but within prospecting, it's I know sometimes we can all get kind of carried away that, oh, hey, I'm working on this deal, and then we kind of forget about
Right.
continuing to build that pipeline. And I would say it's never get I never want to get settled, because as soon as that happens, all of a sudden you could have a dry spell, and don't
Well,
want that.
that's the challenge doing big deals is that
Yeah.
you get all your energies focused on closing that deal, but
Right.
and once it's closed, then you have to start the cycle all over again. And those skills get a little dry, a little
Yeah.
stale, like they
Yeah.
would with baseball, right? If you're not, what's the pitcher do when the other pitcher's
Right.
up there? There's always
Right.
somebody warming up in the bullpen, right?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly it. If you're not taking your swings, if you're not watching what's going on, oh my gosh, that 90-mile-per-hour ball becomes like 110,
Yeah. And
120.
you're
You're
going to
like,
hurt your shoulder, right? Because your shoulder's all
yeah,
tight. You got to loosen it up. And
yeah,
I think that's what's great about salespeople is they keep all those skills going.
yeah,
Maybe through, I don't know how you do it, but time blocking or
yes.
yeah,
Time blocking is huge. Making sure that it's like whether it's time blocking or a set number of calls. I commit to myself every week. I mean that's big. And then also for the mindset. I've been listening to your podcast for now about 3 years.
is that all?
Started,
A
yeah,
rookie?
it's about 3 years. Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, Brian, what was it? I read a book, by Brian Tracy, and I know he's written like hundreds
Yeah.
of books, but yeah, I mean, yeah, they're probably all in one. But one of the biggest things I got out of it was he's like, if you're whatever you're doing, he's like, you need to like always keep sharpening that. And I was like, oh, it's like like sports and stuff. And he's like, yeah, listen to podcasts. And I'm like, what is a podcast?
Oh,
And
really? Yeah.
yeah, that was you were actually one of my first downloaded podcasts back in I was in Hawaii listening to you, and I was like, oh, this
That's it.
makes sense.
What else would you
This
do
is it.
in Hawaii on your time off?
Well, just laying by the beach.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, that was it.
Let's see what this guy's got to say.
Yeah. Nothing eventful, and yeah, no. But yeah, I'd say just a continuation of continually learning, wanting to sharpen, practice, practice, reading, and,
Yeah.
and then speaking to other people too, because your other colleagues, you might learn something that you never even thought about. Different idea, different way to approach. I think it's just having an open mindset.
Because that's it. Because your colleagues are making mistakes that you are either going to make, have made.
Yeah.
And why not learn from them?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because you always see you get together at the quarterly meetings or stuff, and the deal's a sure thing. And then by the next quarter, it's like it didn't happen. What happened? Where did it get stuck? Or where did it die?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think having I think with what you're saying, it's like having a questioning mindset, it's even to even when you're working with a colleague and they're like, well, so there's this deal and it got stuck because of some customer, and so yeah, it might get forecasted out a year later. Well, like my natural inclination of the next question is like, well, what was the challenge or problems that's causing it? Let's keep the story going. Because sometimes I think maybe we all just take for granted that once we hear something, we don't really soak it in, and we
right, and we kind of want to protect ourselves because it hurts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You put a lot of time and energy into something and it doesn't come through, that's lost investment.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And so you probably don't want to hear the truth. The client is probably, typically, why does a deal get stuck? They don't know how to get it done. They have other priorities. or they chose another way of solving it.
Right.
And they have zero incentive to, give you the full story.
Right.
Yeah. And how do you build up that rapport with clients? Do you have a particular style or?
Well, I noticed one thing that I stopped. I'll tell you, I stopped doing especially with, I mean, it was the high squeaky voice where
Yeah.
I think even my wife caught me one time when she's like, what was that voice? That wasn't you. Like you didn't sound authentic.
So you
sounded.
were subconsciously trying to act like a salesperson?
I guess
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to put it. But with building rapport, whether if I'd say there's a determination to make sure I actually get a hold of someone. So whether it's leaving voicemails, I prefer to always go with the phone, and then like probably after 3 or so phone calls, if I haven't gotten a hold of them, then I'll maybe switch to the email. But I really do like to have kind of a cadence of every three business days, because obviously it builds kind of familiarity. Eventually they're going to be like, oh, I've heard this guy, and I forget. I don't know if you've seen like Jeb Blunt, or heard of him. But one of the things I absolutely loved about this guy was he was talking about a Katy Perry song that he hated. But by the 15th time that he heard it, he's like, this is the best song. He started singing it. And I go, that's so true. How many times that as long as we don't give up, eventually someone, picks up the phone, and you're maybe shocked too, because they picked up the phone after you've left the 7th voicemail message. But combination of building the rapport and then really having the purpose, not going, hey, how's it going? It's
right. You gotta have a good reason that they care about.
Yeah. And I think too that first comment, like, how's it going, instantly tells them that this is a salesperson on the phone.
Right. And you're too lazy to come up with something better.
Right.
It's like, are you just looking?
Yeah.
How can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really always like to, identify who I am, and then tell the purpose of why I'm calling, so that everyone's kind of comfortable of what's setting the expectations, and then really from there, then it's setting a meeting, and it's never, even if you do find out that there's a fit or a solution to help out, you got to hold it back. I mean, it's the closest thing to when you ask something and then, shut up and be quiet.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing of when you're finding a solution or part of it, just keep that in your mind and let that build up, because I think there's a tendency with other salespeople to also say, oh, yeah, we can fix this. And then all of a sudden you start derailing to where you miss like the other half of their story. So I'm really big on, and I truly mean it too, of saying, look, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to take notes, and I'll get back to you. I'm not going to, I have nothing to tell you. I have nothing really to tell you at this moment. Otherwise, if I think there's a fit for us to keep having this conversation, or, if not, I'm not going to waste your time or my time, just being a human being. Yeah.
That's it. I like that peer-to-peer instead of begging for time like a little puppy.
Yeah.
And and just begging and then pouncing on how you can help them before you really diagnose the full situation and the pain.
Right.
Now, how long do you think you had that high squeaky voice before your wife told you?
Oh man, I was probably about 6 months. Earlier
it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I was probably 15 years, and I kept wondering, why am I not getting these offers in certain sales? I got the track record, I got the W-2s, and they want to hire somebody who sounds like a sales rep. And it's like, it's just the interview process. But when your wife told you, why did you take it so positively instead of it hurting your feelings?
Well, that's nice of you to think I took it moment.
And then how did you correct it? Did you just become conscious of it and catch yourself?
Yes. So I think, especially when you're a salesperson working remote, obviously you're limited to how much kind of feedback, right?
Next to none, right?
Yeah. You're literally your worst. You could be your worst enemy or your best partner. I want to be my best partner.
That's one of the downsides, because I've only worked in an office twice. out of
Yeah.
12 different companies.
Yeah.
And,
The last, yeah. I mean, you have definitely an extensive sales career. It's only been 7 years of just working straight remote for me.
yeah.
So.
But what did work is I had an engineer for pretty much the same engineer for 10 years,
Yeah.
several different companies. And we were so hard on each other,
Yeah.
but positive, well, kind of jabbing each other like brothers would, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And it got us both very good, right?
Okay.
Because we never let each other get away with anything.
Yeah.
I'd be at the airport and he was always the guy right on time, right before planes boarding. And I'd be looking at my watch, right? And the one time I was late, he was like, yeah.
You're going to get it.
Right. He was always like, well, why do you get here so early? You're just going to sit around. It's like, well, there is this thing called traffic. Security lines are crazy. You have no control over the weather.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that getting the feedback. And I think one of the good things about the open office is when you get to see your peers and there's a little bit of accountability.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But when you're working probably out of your house, do you work out of your house? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless you have a dog or a cat or the wife catches you with the high pitched voice, you're not getting much feedback. Clients aren't going to give it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it even, with interacting with your colleagues, whether they be, all the way over the East Coast, I think it's critical to have those kind of conversations because, it's kind of somewhat of building a camaraderie together that you're in the trenches as well. And then also to understand, it's like, what are you using that's working for you? Or it's just another resource.
And that probably saved you years of less performance since you do most of your prospecting on the phone.
Yeah.
And, if you have a voice issue, whatever it is.
Right. I mean,
it's costing you money.
That was the thing is like when I first started, it was a combination of, making the cold call on the phone and then, or, driving and then driving and knocking on the door. Yeah. And I had a lot of success with doing the knocking on the door, going in the back and like, who do I need to talk to? Because all of a sudden I'm talking to someone, I could see their face. Yeah. And obviously everything's different if you're having a face-to-face interaction.
Right. You get a facial expression. They're reacting.
Right.
And
so it's like, so it's like, okay, yeah. But then as you kind of keep going up in your sales career, there's a lot of these people that are in higher roles and you have not even just gatekeepers. You've got people that don't work for the company that aren't going to tell you who you can speak to. And you got to get creative with LinkedIn. You got to get creative with your network. And you got to, I think effectively, you have to be good with the phone because I mean, some of these emails, it's like, if it's not specific, I mean, I delete them. I mean, and if it's not about what's going to fix if I have a problem or if I haven't thought of a problem.
It's just a commercial.
Yeah, it's exactly.
And sometimes it's not even a clear commercial.
Yes. Especially when you can't get your like a name called Matt gets put as John, but it's directed to you. You start going wondering like, oh, come on, you gotta get the name right. You gotta get the name right.
What do you think you believe about sales that most salespeople don't believe?
I really truly think I think within sales, because there is this connotation, and maybe there always will be since the day of the day the car was born, and you get this thing with car salesmen, right? There's a connotation that we're only trying to just do what's best for us, and I really think it's about solving problems and driving value. Yeah. I think if you have that mindset, because there's one thing of like being absolutely in love with your product. That's great that you love your product. You're all about it. Your customer doesn't care. No one cares. The thing that I've always learned, and I got this from a mentor, was that people, it's good that you have some kind of likability, but you'll get a lot more likability when you help them solve a problem that they even haven't thought about. Right. A solution that's tailored around them. And it's essentially the story of how you connect all those dots. And that's the part I've enjoyed because, even within like, kind of go back to baseball, it's not about just going up there, throwing, pitching. You've got a bunch of players, and it's about utilizing the resources. And that's been probably one of the biggest part of my success is taking the people, whether it's within engineering, logistics, is taking those people to build those relationships along with these new customers. And customers recognize that. They go, oh, these people, and I've heard you talk about how like, you were the engineering part. And so when you would come in, it would be this whole different conversation. And I mean, like taking my engineer, I'm from a previous company, he would come in and all of a sudden working with guys on different projects, he pretty much did the sale. Like they're like, oh, we remember you. Yeah. We'll do the exact same thing. And I'm like, okay, that was easy, but that was the value.
Yeah, that's it. My whole career, and I never found another company that supported it. The first job I had, we had like a couple of handful of $1 million deals, and my sales rep would say like, well, don't go there on site unless they pay us.
Yeah.
I go, well, they're not going to pay us unless they use our equipment.
They're
not going to use our equipment unless it works within their environment. He goes, okay, do whatever you want. Just don't tell me about it. So I spent my whole summer every day going to this client free of charge, unless I was busy with something else, and working to integrate our product with their environment. Yeah. And a year later, we get a $30 million deal from them.
I wonder how that happened.
Oh, yeah. You think that would have happened otherwise?
Yeah.
Right. And it was just this hub of activity. I got it to work. Then I get all their engineers using it. They get all excited. They make their deadlines. Yeah. And I every company since then, I have to do it stealth. I can't tell anybody that I'm doing this. Because they're like, oh, you got to charge for that. I go, yeah, we could try, but it's like when you talk to a lot of like advertising people, if you don't demonstrate value, you're no different than the next person. And they give the business to the best pitch, not the most skilled. Yeah. Right. They want the skill. They don't care. The pitch is nice, but and they think the ideas in the pitch are what matters. No, it's the implementation.
Absolutely.
Right. It's that long process of really finding out what does work.
I think, talking about how you're given this scenario where you're giving and you're not just taking, having this thing
because
like
that's what builds trust.
Yeah.
That when people ask what's value is giving something that they value.
Yes.
It's not what you value. It's not your presentation. Right. It's not your demo.
Right. Right. It's not. It really isn't. And I think if you have that mindset of wanting to deliver value, I think there's certain customers that they'll get taken kind of taken by surprise, where they might go, okay, well, yeah, like here's the agenda. You do the formalities, and they're like, okay, well, Matt, tell us about the company. Well, we're this. It's literally one sentence, and then they go, well, what I really want to do is ask you some questions to make sure I understand, to get
what you
a better, what you want to do, what's your unique situation. Sure. Yeah. So they start kind of opening up, and then they finally go, so wait, hold on, what is it that you do again? I'm like, well, we can get to that a little bit later. Tell me a little bit more about, like, you mentioned this, and they start kind of getting like, there's like a confused kind of look, like, what is going on here? I thought we were going to get this presentation, this
right. Because what do they think? And they're thinking, who are you? What do you do? And then they have to map that to what they need. You're bringing out what they need.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to follow you?
So I am on LinkedIn. I think it's Matt Swan-MBA. Or it's something in that format. I'm sure if you find me at Matt Swan,
Matt Dash
Global.
Yep.
Thanks for coming prepared on my LinkedIn profile.
One of the consistent themes that I've heard from sales reps, especially in the series that I've been doing since pretty much last September or August, so go back and listen to the old ones. They're not old, they're just good, is that people are looking for feedback. People want to analyze how well they're doing it. It's the performance versus knowledge mindset. That difference is a distinction that the A players have. The B players are comfortable knowing. But guess what? It doesn't matter. We all know how to throw a baseball. Very few of us can be pitchers, right? We all know how to, use the microwave, but very few of us can cook something. We know the steps. We may know the ingredients and the structure, but when we do it, there's a little distinctions that make all the difference. I mean, look at barbecuing. How hard can it be? But you leave it on there just a few seconds longer than you should, and you got a flame, you got a fire, you don't have dinner. This is what sales is. It's all kinds of little distinctions. And first step is to have the mindset, the knowledge, the awareness, the consciousness that it is different. The next thing is to analyze it and work on it every day. Have the compounding mindset, not the circadian Groundhog Day mindset. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I'm putting these up on YouTube so you can watch them on video. I put the comedy videos up on YouTube first, so make sure you subscribe and put the little bell so you get the alert if you want a little laugh. I keep them to under 2 minutes, so it's a good way to break up the day. Also, let me update you on office hours. Office hours have become much more interactive. At first, it was kind of me summarizing the one-on-ones and bringing up a case study or an elaboration on one of the elements of the process. But now there's so many people in there that people are just really having great insights. People are sharing new tools, new variations of what they're doing and how it's working. So it's getting the result that I wanted. Was it just that Brian's ideas aren't the only ideas? Everyone's together about what does work and in what context and distinctions, and putting it into different voices has really helped. So if you're in the course and you can't make that particular time, it's no problem. I record it and put it in the course. Office hours is the second to the last chapter. The last chapter are the one-on-ones, which I think is the pure gold of the courses. It's talking through particular situations and applying the course to them. So instead of, like this is an interview, but it's not a deep dive about applying a particular approach, an approach that has been proven to me over the last 8 years, and it's used by the most difficult situations. If people are getting conversations started in meetings and got inbound, they don't join the course. Who joins the course? It's people who are struggling to get conversations in meetings. Not because they're bad people or pushy salespeople. It's because it's hard. That's all I hear on LinkedIn. And I get people who want to be on the show and they've got some gimmick or something. I'm like, I don't want to present a gimmick, because gimmicks work like magic tricks until somebody knows the trick. It's like the alligator breakup email. It worked for 6 months, but now it's a joke. Stick with foundational scientific elements of human nature and then turn them into easily understandable steps that you could teach almost anybody. And I've taught virtual assistants how to do this. And my calendar is booked. That's the way I like it. The idea of just cold pitching people, it's just a commercial. You're a robo-caller. You are a spam bot. When I hear that pickup rates, not conversations, are 4%, that means for 100 dials, 4 people pick up. That came from pretty reliable source. That's a lot of dialing to get 4. That doesn't even mean they're interested or qualified. That means they just picked up. Could be the wrong person, not interested, a hang up after that. What we need today is how to connect with other human beings. It's always worked. And the people in the course goes, I just want to have an organic conversation. Well, this is how you start it. You're not going to start it with a cold pitch. You're going to start it this way. And if you've heard some of the other episodes when I did the interview with the procurement person, exactly what he told me, what he wanted, is what I teach in closing the complex sale. Because getting people interested and getting them a proposal, you think you're halfway there. You think you're 80% there. I don't know what percentage it is, but it's not 80%. Until you've got it approved economically, you might be at 50%. Now there's a whole gauntlet of things that can delay and deny that order. That is the rule, not the exception. Especially the bigger the company, the bigger the deal, the more change it requires. We have to guide our clients through that process. And wouldn't you like some help doing that? See how other people are doing it? Have tons of examples, tons of little distinctions. Even in one deal, just changing the name of the document had an enormous impact. How people reacted to the document told us where we stood in the deal. These are these little breadcrumbs that we see from every interaction that tell us. And sometimes we don't see it because we don't want to see it. We naturally hear and see the things that we want to confirm. It's called confirmation bias. So make sure you check out the courses at b2brevenue.com. You can schedule a time, but also check out the frequently asked questions in the show notes. I answer probably 9 out of the 10 questions that most people ask about, does it match me? Are you in the complex sale? Many meetings, high dollar amount, selling to a business. That's typically a complex sale. Are you having an easy time getting conversations and new meetings? I bet you don't. If you do, you don't need the course. I get it. No problem. Those are the key problems that I solve. On b2brevenue.com, you can take a look at the courses, breeze through the content. The minute-wise, most of the content is in office hours and one-on-ones. The core content, it may not take as long to consume. It takes a long time to practice and become good at it. And you get to talk with me. You get to listen to other people converse. You get to participate in a community. So and you can pay all at once or in 12 monthly payments. It's not a subscription, though. It's a payment plan. Okay, so that I want to make sure that that's clear. I spell it out everywhere, but a lot of people want to believe it's a subscription. It's a payment plan. That's it. Make sure you're checking out the other 2 podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, and the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. That one's kind of taken over as far as sales leadership. If you want to hear people's journey to become a manager and how they like it or dislike it or what they like to see in reps, great conversations there. Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers is a short form, no intro podcast. Just here's the question, here's my view on it. I try and keep them to under about 8 minutes. So if you just want a munchable daily podcast on sales, that's a great fit. We'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell a friend about the podcast. Like, comment, and share some of my videos if you see it flying by on your feed on LinkedIn. And I appreciate you listening.